Ladies and gentlemen, by popular demand, today we are looking at the Embryonic Anomaly Remake from Rings of Saturn because, fuck my life, that's why. Let's just get this over with. While nowadays I would genuinely struggle to call myself a Rings of Saturn fan, there was a time, believe it or not, when I not only tolerated them, I actively appreciated and enjoyed their music. I never thought they were especially intelligent or anything, but I was able to get some cheap enjoyment out of their brand of bombastic, hyper-explosive technical deathcore. Yeah, they're silly, yeah, they're campy, and yeah, they're kind of pretentious when you get right down to it, but in those early years, I mostly just focused on the silliness, on the campiness, and I don't know, I kind of had fun with them as a result. I may or may not have even purchased the original Embryonic Anomaly on vinyl after seeing Rings of Saturn on the Summer Slaughter Tour in 2014, and I may or may not have gotten that copy autographed. Similarly, I may or may not have also gone on to purchase Dinger, which I may or may not have also gotten autographed roughly around the same time. Possibly. I don't know. I honestly don't remember because I drink a lot of goddamn beer. Well, usually Jack Daniels, but tonight it's beer. And considering the fact that I was like 16 when the original Embryonic Anomaly came out, an argument could very easily be made that Rings of Saturn, intentionally or not, did introduce me to a lot of other technical death metal and deathcore. But as time raged on and I continued to grow and mature and evolve, and as I continued to explore the broader spectrums of technical death metal, deathcore, and in turn heavy metal and extreme music, I also began to become more and more alienated by Rings of Saturn and their particular brand of Aliencore, as they now call it. And not just because of the controversies that have haunted Rings of Saturn for the last decade, but simply because I don't really connect with their style anymore. It just feels too random, too strange. It really just to me feels like a lot of generic deathcore that has been plastered with this very futuristic random guitar wankery trying to convince you that it's this high concept progressive metal buffoonery. The music has just become so increasingly predictable and repetitive and uninspired and outright stupid at times. As such, I wasn't really sure what to think when it was announced that Rings of Saturn would be remaking and re-releasing Embryonic Anomaly to commemorate its 10th anniversary. I mean, on one hand, I would argue that Embryonic Anomaly, at the very least, is probably their most cohesive and engaging record. But on the other hand, as we've all noticed, when any band goes back to revisit their older material and tries to remake it, tries to reintroduce it to the new era, it almost consistently fails in spectacular fashion. Cough cough Clayman 2020. Holy fuck, all I did was say the name aloud and a literal shiver went down my fucking spine. Ugh. I suppose with all this in mind, we should officially kickstart this review with some good news. If you like the original Embryonic Anomaly, there is an extremely fucking good chance you're gonna like this album. Musically, structurally, nothing has changed from the original album. It remains the same silly, campy, cheesy slice of Aliencore in 2021 that it was in 2010. Over-the-top tech-deaf guitar solos, spacey keyboards and synthesizers, and barrages of mechanical percussion and deathcore gutturals, accented and emboldened by a very colorful and futuristic aesthetic that almost presents itself as the long-lost cocaine-addled remake of James Cameron's Aliens. All the guitar, bass, vocal, and keyboard parts have been significantly enhanced and improved. They have been fully fleshed out. They have a nice, meaty, hearty presence in the actual sound mix while remaining every bit as flamboyant and over the top as they were on the original recordings. And the fully re-recorded percussion, courtesy of Marco Petruzella, is a massive improvement over the original album. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have a soft spot for the original Embryonic Anomaly, but the percussion was easily the worst fucking thing about it. The bad news is that this is still Rings of Saturn, and the usual issues that I have with Rings of Saturn, now as an adult, remain, even though we're looking at the one Rings of Saturn album I can still kind of tolerate. It's just so fucking noisy and random and nonsensical. It lacks substance. It lacks meaning. It is quite literally, even at its absolute best, high-energy tech-deaf shredding and guitar wankery for the sake of high-energy tech-deaf shredding and guitar wankery. There's a part of me that's ready to just turn my brain off and grab a fucking cold beer and a hot slice of pizza and just jam the fuck out with Rings of Saturn, even if purely for nostalgic reasons. But there's another part of me that's just looking at this thing and kind of going, well, it's better than Get 'em, but that's not really saying much. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and argue that this isn't objectively better than the original Embryonic Anomaly, because it is. But if you think I'm going to sit here and pretend that I'm fucking blown away by this because it's so brutal and so spacey and so heavy, you're fucking dead wrong. I gotta say, I also feel like this album kind of lied to me on some level, because this isn't really a remake of Embryonic Anomaly, it's a glorified remaster. In fact, the only thing about this album that actually has been remade is the percussion. The rest of this, it's literally the original album, but enhanced and polished to meet the standards of 2021. That's pretty fucking lame if you asked me, and honestly a missed opportunity considering that the half-speed recording rumors continue to haunt Rings of Saturn to this day. I would probably give this thing a 2 out of 5. I'm just not really feeling it, and maybe it's just because I've grown out of this style. Maybe it's because I'm just too old for this now. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old to understand Rings of Saturn, even though I'm literally the same age as the members of Rings of Saturn. But whatever the case may be, I'm just not feeling this. It's definitely shinier and prettier and more polished than the original Embryonic Anomaly, and yeah, I did briefly have some fun in some parts here and there. Season Devoured is still a fun track. Invasion still has a pretty strong opening, and I do really like a lot of the percussion on this thing. But overall, it's just not connecting me. It's still just a bunch of mindless, brainless shredding and tech-deaf wankery. It's random percussion and spacey squeals and futuristic soundscapes, disguising some incredibly generic, run-of-the-mill, cookie-cutter deathcore. If you're just looking for some dumb, over-the-top tech death and you're not really concerned with what the band is trying to say or if they're doing anything especially unique or interesting, then go nuts, man. Crack open a cold beer, order some fucking pizza, and have some fun with Rings of Saturn. But if you're like me and you're familiar with what the realms of technical death metal and deathcore have to offer in 2020, and you're looking for something a little bit more clever, a little bit more thought-provoking, a little bit more bold and flavorful and spicy, this really won't do anything for you unless, like myself, you have some kind of nostalgic attachment to the original Embryonic Anomaly. I suppose as far as these remake albums go, this probably stands as one of the stronger ones. I mean, it's definitely miles ahead of the aforementioned Clayman 2020, but I struggle to say, even despite its strengths, that it's a legitimately good album. And maybe that's just because I'm a fucking sour old man now, but c'est la vie. What are you gonna do? That's just how I feel. 2 out of 5. This thing's pretty poor. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Did you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? Thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.